The 9,712th meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is the situation in the Middle East. The agenda is adopted. In accordance with Rule 37 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the representatives of Israel and Lebanon to participate in this meeting. It is so decided. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of Agenda Item 2. Members of the Council have before them document S/2024/634, the text of a draft resolution submitted by France. I wish to draw the attention of Council members to document S/2024/567, a letter dated 24th July 2024 from the Secretary General addressed to the President of the Council. The Council is ready to proceed to the vote on the draft resolution before it. I now wish to give the floor to those members of the Council who wish to make statements before the vote. I give the floor to the representative of France.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président, la situation régionale suscite nos plus vives inquiétudes et en particulier le long de la ligne bleue. Les tensions se poursuivent, le risque d'une guerre ouverte reste réel et nous sommes mobilisés en lien avec nos partenaires régionaux et internationaux pour éviter un embrasement régional et nous continuons d'appeler l'Iran et les groupes qu'il soutient à s'abstenir de mener des attaques, lesquelles aggraveraient encore les tensions actuelles. Dans ces conditions, il est de la responsabilité de ce Conseil d'œuvrer pour que les acteurs sur le terrain cessent les hostilités le long de la ligne bleue. Ce Conseil dispose de deux outils précieux pour y parvenir, Dashi nul d'une part et le cadre qui a été fixé par la résolution 1701 d'autre part. La France a, dans ces conditions particulières, proposé à ce Conseil de renouveler pour 12 mois le mandat de Dashi nul comme les années précédentes et nous avons proposé de renouveler son mandat à l'identique. Nous avons à l'heure où les casques bleus sont précisément sous le feu de l'action et qu'ils accomplissent un travail remarquable dans des conditions extrêmement éprouvantes. Nous avons par ce texte appelé à la pleine mise en œuvre du cadre reconnu par tous, à savoir la résolution 1701, y compris donc le retour à une cessation complète des hostilités. Nous avons demandé à tous les acteurs de prendre des mesures immédiates pour travailler à la désescalade. Nous avons tout au long du processus de renouvellement du mandat veillé à être à l'écoute de tous et de toutes les parties prenantes, y compris au-delà du Conseil de sécurité, et je pense en particulier aux pays contributeurs de troupes. Dans un esprit inclusif, dans un esprit collectif, et nous avons maintenu ce contact étroit avec tous jusqu'au bout. La France s'emploie sur le terrain à identifier les conditions d'un accord pour un retour à une cessation des hostilités en accord avec la résolution 1701, et c'est sur cette base que la France a fait à Israël et au Liban des propositions concrètes. Comme la résolution soumise au vote ce jour l'indique, il est en parallèle nécessaire que le secrétariat, dans le cadre du mandat actuel, s'assure que la FINUL reste prête à adapter ses activités en soutien à tout effort de désescalade. Et nous sommes bien entendu disposés à travailler dans le futur pour que le Conseil prenne toute action qui s'imposerait en cas d'obtention d'un accord le long de la ligne bleue, y compris s'agissant de la FINUL. Je vous remercie.
I thank the representative of France for their statement. I shall now put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of draft resolution contained in document S/2024/634 please raise their hand? The result of the voting is as follows. The draft resolution received 15 votes in favor. The draft resolution has been adopted unanimously as Resolution 2749 of 2024. I now give the floor to those council members who wish to make statements after the vote. I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, in 2006, following intense fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, this Council adopted Resolution 1701. While Hezbollah launched sporadic attacks against Israel in the years since, quiet had largely been maintained along the Blue Line for 18 years. However, that stability was shattered on the morning of October 8, when Hezbollah initiated a barrage of rocket attacks on Israel, and armed terrorists subsequently infiltrated Israel from across the Blue Line in the aftermath of Hamas's brutal and unprecedented terrorist attack on Israel. Hezbollah made the escalatory decision to bombard communities in northern Israel, and for the past 11 months, it has done so on nearly a daily basis. It is wrong that this Council has yet to condemn Hezbollah for these repeated destabilizing actions, and we regret that a small minority of Council members blocked the Council from doing so in this mandate renewal. Colleagues, Hezbollah's violent attacks put put Israeli and Lebanese civilians at risk. They jeopardize Lebanon's stability and sovereignty. Lebanon should not be a haven for terrorist organizations or a launch pad for attacks against Israel. There is no dispute that Iran, in clear violation of the arms embargo in Resolution 1701, provides Hezbollah with the majority of the rockets, missiles, and drones that are fired at Israel. And let's be clear, Israel has a right to defend itself against Hezbollah's attacks. No member of this Council facing a brutal terrorist organization on its border would tolerate daily attacks and displacement of tens of thousands of its own people. The United States supports Israel's right to defend itself, and we will keep working for regional stability. The path to stability does not just end in a restoration of calm along the Blue Line. It ends with a comprehensive understanding relating to the Blue Line that has real implementation mechanisms. Only that will allow displaced residents on both sides of the Blue Line to return to their home with security and safety. And to achieve that, we are going to clearly need a strengthened UNIFIL at some point to help with implementation. More immediately, extending UNIFIL's mandate, which this resolution does, supports our goal of regional de-escalation, which is now more important than ever. We do not want to see conflicts intensify and spread, and most importantly, the people of the region do not want that either. Specifically, UNIFIL plays an important role in monitoring activity along the Blue Line and promoting stability. And it supports local communities by facilitating humanitarian access and providing much-needed resources and training. UNIFIL's liaison capabilities also are integral in mitigating the risk of miscalculation and preventing further escalation. Going forward, we need to address the ways in which Hezbollah and other malign actors in Lebanon prevent the full implementation of Resolution 1701, constrain UNIFIL's ability to operate freely, and threaten UN peacekeepers' safety and security. And we need to push for Resolution 1701's full implementation, including by establishing an area south of the Litani River that is free of any armed personnel, assets, or weapons other than those of the Lebanese government and UNIFIL. It is imperative UNIFIL be able to freely monitor and report any actions contrary to UN Security Council Resolution 1701, which requires full freedom of movement and access to sites of concern, which Hezbollah deliberately obstructs. Without that access and attendant reporting, the Council cannot have a full and accurate understanding of the situation along the Blue Line and the threats that Hezbollah poses to regional security and stability. It is vital that the Council continue to support UNIFIL by taking measures to address these attempts to constrain UNIFIL's ability to fully execute its mission. Colleagues, the extension of UNIFIL's mandate today ensured an important pillar of stability in Lebanon remains in place and is able to perform its important functions. It should help support the hard work of diplomacy ahead of us, diplomacy that the United States will continue to lead on the ground in coordination with other members of the Council and partners in the region. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of the United States for their statement. I give the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, President. First, let me thank France for their efforts in guiding us to consensus today. With the situation on the Blue Line the most precarious it has been for years, we cannot overstate the importance of UNIFIL for calming the situation on the border. That's why we voted in favour today. We commend the UN troops and staff of the mission who are working in such difficult circumstances, risking their lives to fulfil the mandate. Near daily exchanges of fire across the Blue Line have killed and injured civilians. UN peacekeepers have been wounded too. This is deeply concerning, and we welcome the mandate's call for all parties to protect civilians in accordance with international law and to take all measures to respect the safety and security of UN peacekeepers. Over the weekend, my Foreign Minister spoke to Lebanon's PM Mikati and Israel's Strategic Affairs Minister Derma to reassure them of our support for security on both sides of the Blue Line. But while the UK is supporting Lebanon's security and stability through its government and armed forces, Iran is sowing further conflict and chaos by supplying advanced weaponry to Hezbollah. We urge Iran to stand down their proxy, and we call on Hezbollah to de-escalate immediately. Only a political solution can deliver the peace we so desperately need. As my Foreign Minister said earlier this month, a widening of this conflict is in nobody's interest. The consequences could be catastrophic. One miscalculation is all it takes. So all parties need to engage immediately with diplomatic efforts based on the principles set out in UN Security Council Resolution 1701. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United Kingdom for their statement. I give the floor to the representative of Malta.
Thank you, Mr. President. Malta voted in favour of this resolution to renew UNIFIL's mandate. We welcome its adoption and we thank the penholders, France, for all their efforts and engagement over the past weeks. Entering these negotiations, Malta worked constructively to achieve a text that would allow for a swift renewal of UNIFIL's mandate. This Council has always stood in unity and support of the mission. Today's vote reflects this Council's interest in continuing to do so, particularly in these challenging times. Malta remains deeply concerned with the intensifying exchange of fire across and beyond the Blue Line. Last weekend's developments further underline the fragility of the situation and the possibility that large-scale hostilities may quickly erupt. The full implementation of Resolution 1701 and an immediate return to a cessation of hostilities remains essential. The conflict in Gaza continues to inflame the region. Restraint and de-escalation must remain our priority. We wholly support all international efforts aimed towards this, including through ensuring a permanent and immediate ceasefire to the conflict in Gaza. In conclusion, Mr. President, we commend the work of UNIFIL to maintain calm and to preserve security and stability in the region. We have a common interest in seeing UNIFIL, where Malta is also a troop contributing country, succeed. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Malta for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Slovenia.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We would like to start by thanking the penholder, France, for their efforts and able steering of negotiations to come to a balanced text. We welcome the consensual adoption of this resolution. Slovenia remains extremely alarmed about the hostilities along the Blue Line. Just this week, we were reminded about the very real threat of a massive escalation. We are deeply alarmed about the intensity of exchanges and a possible miscalculation which would drag the wider region into a full-blown war. The rhetoric related to this crisis is troubling. Slovenia therefore underlines its call for the restoration of cessation of hostilities and full implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1701 in its entirety. We are appalled by the loss of civilian lives, as well as by the heavy impact of on civilian infrastructures and civilians, many of whom have been displaced. We underscore the need to respect international law, including international humanitarian and human rights law. All civilians must be protected at all times and by all parties. Slovenia expresses full support to the mandate of UNIFIL. Its efforts are critical and its presence serves as the vital stabilizing factor. We thank all troop contributing countries for their contribution to the stability of the region. We join the call on all parties to ensure the safety, security, and freedom of UN personnel. The inviolability of UN premises must be respected at all times. We welcome the work of UNIFIL, including through its operations, as well as continuous communications with all actors. The parties must use the UNIFIL liaison and coordination mechanism, good offices by international actors, and fully engage in de-escalate. It is essential that diplomatic efforts continue being the primary avenue to address this crisis, as well as the one in Gaza. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Slovenia for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Switzerland.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais également commencer par remercier la France de son excellent travail de rédaction lors de cette négociation complexe, ainsi que toutes les délégations de leur volonté de trouver des solutions. La Suisse se félicite de la prolongation unanime du mandat de la FINUL pour une année. Cette adoption à l'unanimité envoie un signal important à la région et en particulier aux parties concernées. Cela démontre que le Conseil est conscient de sa responsabilité de contribuer à une solution à long terme du conflit, conformément à la résolution 1701. La Suisse confirme son soutien entier à la FINUL, également en tant que pays contributeur de troupes par le biais de l'ONUST. Le personnel de la FINUL accomplit chaque jour un travail important dans des conditions difficiles. Nous les remercions et rappelons à cet égard que toutes les parties ont l'obligation d'assurer la sécurité du personnel de la FINUL. Plusieurs d'entre eux ont été blessés, ce qui est inacceptable. La Suisse est extrêmement préoccupée par l'intensification des violences de part et d'autre de la ligne bleue, qui a déjà fait de nombreuses victimes civiles et des dizaines de milliers de déplacés. Nous appelons avec insistance à un retour à la cessation totale des hostilités de part et d'autre de la ligne bleue et à un réengagement immédiat des parties à mettre en œuvre toutes les dispositions de la résolution 1701. De plus, toutes les parties doivent respecter leurs obligations en vertu du droit international, y compris du droit international humanitaire et des droits humains. Seule la diplomatie peut mener à une solution durable. La Suisse soutient tous les efforts en cours à cet égard. Je vous remercie.
I thank the representative of Switzerland for their statement. I give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Mr.
بداية
President.
أود أن أشكر حامل القلم على النص المقدم والذي تم اعتماده اليوم بخصوص تجديد ولاية القوى المؤقتة للأمم المتحدة بلبنان. تعرب الجزائر عن ارتياحها لاعتماد القرار بالإجماع، ما يوضح أهمية قوات اليونيفيل ووحدة المجلس في الدعوة ودعم وقف الأعمال العدائية وتنفيذ القرار 1701 بكل جزئياته، حيث صوتت بلادي لصالح النص المعتمد اليوم بدور هذه القوات في ضمان الأمن والسلم، ليس بلبنان فقط وإنما في الشرق الأوسط برمته، في وقت تمر المنطقة بظرف حساس وخطير نتيجة العدوان الغاشم للمحتل الإسرائيلي على الشعب الفلسطيني الأعزل، لا سيما بقطاع غزة، ما ينذر بإلقاء المنطقة في أتون نزاع إقليمي تتجاوز تبعاته الشرق الأوسط، حيث تجدد بلادي الدعوة لوقف إطلاق النار بغزة وتشدد على الترابط بين أزمات المنطقة وأن تفادي انزلاقها نحو نزاع إقليمي يمر حتما بوقف آلة القتل الهمجي الإسرائيلية بحق الشعب الفلسطيني، كما أن التوترات على طول الخط الأزرق والاعتداءات الممنهجة للمحتل الإسرائيلي على السيادة اللبنانية تؤكد مرة أخرى على ضرورة ضمان التنفيذ الكامل لقرار 1701، خاصة ما تعلق بالانسحاب الكامل من الأراضي اللبنانية المحتلة. في الأخير، تؤمن بلادي أن السبب الرئيسي لعدم استقرار الشرق الأوسط هو احتلال الأراضي العربية، وأن زوال هذا الاحتلال شرط السلم والأمن بالمنطقة. شكرا جزيلا.
I thank the representative of Algeria for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Republic of Korea extends its appreciation to France for its efforts as a penholder in crafting a balanced draft resolution. As a long-standing troop contributing country to UNIFIL, the Republic of Korea voted in favor of the resolution to renew the mission's mandate for an additional 12 months. This extension is crucial, especially at this volatile juncture. Indeed, it provides the predictability and continuity necessary for UNIFIL to fulfill its vital mission of monitoring the cessation of hostilities and helping ensure humanitarian access to civilian populations. The current escalation also makes the adoption of this resolution more timely than ever. This was once again exemplified last Sunday when multiple rocket launches and airstrikes occurred around the Blue Line. We therefore anticipate UNIFIL's continued efforts to de-escalate tensions through the full implementation of Resolution 1701. In this connection, we reaffirm our strong commitment to ensuring the safety and security of peacekeepers at all times, as underscored in today's resolution. Taking this opportunity, the Republic of Korea once again calls on all parties to fully implement Resolution 1701 and immediately cease hostilities. The escalating conflict endangers the fragile stability of the region, and any miscalculation could result in devastating consequences. All stakeholders must actively engage in diplomatic efforts to restore stability and bring the situation back from the brink. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Korea for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Guyana.
Thank you, Mr. President. Guyana welcomes the adoption of this resolution, which ensures that the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon will be able to continue its critical work through August 2025. We wish to thank France for their constructive efforts during the course of the negotiations to consider the views of the host state, Lebanon, and all Council members. Our vote in favor of this resolution is a recognition of the indispensable role of UNIFIL in providing some level of security and stability to the people of Lebanon. We also know that UNIFIL is a critical partner in the efforts to de-escalate tensions along the Blue Line, especially during this time when such tensions have significantly increased, not least because of the war in Gaza. I wish to take this opportunity to express our deep gratitude to the men and women who staff UNIFIL. Their service under constant threat of injury or even death must be applauded. This Council must remain united in support of their efforts to execute their mandate. We also encourage the government of Lebanon and the Lebanese armed forces to continue to work closely with UNIFIL. Guyana is committed to remaining a constructive partner in the ongoing diplomatic efforts to bring lasting stability to Lebanon and the wider region. We encourage all parties to move beyond this period of heightened derision and mistrust, and with the support of UNIFIL, to return to the diplomatic engagement to ensure the full implementation of Resolution 1701 and ultimately a lasting peace for the people of Lebanon. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Guyana for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of China.
President,
中方欢迎安理会一致通过联立部队授权延期决议，赞赏决议执笔国法国为推动安理会各方达成共识做出的努力。刚刚通过的这份决议重申了安理会对支持全面停止敌对行动、实现永久停火的明确政治承诺，释放出停止暴力循环、呼唤和平稳定的明确政治信号。在离异紧张局势持续升级的背景下，这份决议显得尤为必要、重要。我们期待冲突各方能切实遵守决议，停止敌对行动，早日重启对话，为实现持久和平做出努力。期待国际社会为实现停火止暴发挥建设性作用。外交斡旋应该秉持客观公正立场，以推动局势缓和为出发点，充分照顾有关各方的合理关切，促成各方都能接受的安排。安理会第1701号决议确立的各项原则必须得到遵守，黎巴嫩的主权和领土完整必须得到尊重。主席，长期以来，联立部队为维护蓝线附近和地区和平稳定做出了巨大贡献。我们欢迎联立部队延期12个月，期待联立部队继续恪守包括当事方同意在内的维和3原则，履行好停火监督的主责主业，为维护离异局势稳定做出更大的贡献。作为联立部队重要出兵国之一，中方愿同国际社会一道，继续支持联立部队履职，为维护黎巴嫩的和平稳定做出贡献。谢谢。
I thank the representative of China for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Japan.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are deeply concerned about the situation across the Blue Line and the high risk of an eruption into a wider regional conflict. We once again call on all parties to exercise maximum restraint to prevent further escalation. Our deepest concern goes to the civilians who have been affected by the tension on the ground. Civilians must be protected under international humanitarian law. The unanimous renewal of the mandate of UNIFIL demonstrates the strong will and commitment of this Council to bring stability to the region. Given the challenging situation today, UNIFIL's role is even more important in supporting the implementation of Resolution 1701 and the restoration of the cessation of hostilities across the Blue Line. At the same time, we would like to emphasize that all necessary measures should be taken to ensure the safety and security of UNIFIL personnel who are operating in an especially difficult environment. In conclusion, we thank France as the penholder for its tireless effort to strike a sensitive balance in the text, encouraging the Council members and other stakeholders to unite in pursuing a permanent ceasefire and a long-term solution in the region. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Japan for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Ecuador.
Seré muy breve, señor presidente. El Ecuador votó a favor de la renovación del mandato de UNIFIL, naturalmente por estar de acuerdo con todo su contenido y en reconocimiento al trabajo comprometido que realiza la fuerza en un escenario de escalada del conflicto y en condiciones de seguridad extremadamente sensibles. El aporte de UNIFIL es esencial para promover la desescalada de violencia a lo largo de la línea azul y contrarrestar sus efectos negativos en contra de la población civil. El trabajo de UNIFIL para procurar el cumplimiento de las disposiciones disposiciones de la resolución 1701 es también clave para contener la violencia y promover la paz y la seguridad en la región. Finalmente, el Ecuador valora el trabajo realizado por Francia como redactor para llegar a esta renovación del mandato de UNIFIL por un año, considerando las posiciones de todos los actores concernidos. Corresponde ahora la implementación de la resolución 2749 que acaba de adoptar este Consejo.
I thank the representative of Ecuador for their statement. I now give the floor to the Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель.
Thank you, President.
Российская Федерация проголосовала в поддержку подготовленного Францией проекта резолюции Совета Безопасности о продлении на год в неизменном виде мандата временных сил ООН в Ливане. Ценим усилия французских неформальных кураторов досье по нахождению сбалансированного компромисса между членами Совета по тексту резолюции, а также по учету приоритетов принимающей миротворцев ливанской стороны, которая подтвердила приемлемость резолюции, что является ключевым условием в соответствии с руководящими принципами миротворчества. Убеждены, что принятием данного документа Совет Безопасности направляет важный сигнал всем вовлеченным сторонам о необходимости полного прекращения огня, общей деэскалации на голубой линии и неукоснительного соблюдения сторонами, Израилем и Ливаном, положений резолюции СБ ООН 1701, закрепляющей задачи постоянного прекращения боевых действий и долгосрочного регулирования. Выражаем нашу полную поддержку временным силам, играющим ключевую стабилизирующую роль в условиях опасного роста напряженности в ливано-израильском приграничье, откуда на ежедневной основе поступает информация об интенсивных взаимных обстрелах через голубую линию, а также нарушениях Израилем воздушного пространства Ливана, включая пролеты боевой авиации над Бейрутом в целях устрашения гражданского населения. Вызывает озабоченность и случаи политических убийств, участившиеся в последнее время. Подобные действия, помимо прочего, несут и прямую угрозу безопасности ООНовских миротворцев, размещенных на юге Ливана, как указано в тексте резолюции. Присутствие миротворцев снижает риски начала полномасштабной вооруженной конфронтации, которая имела бы самые тяжелые последствия. Выступаем в пользу усиления координации временных сил с правительством и армией республики, в том числе для обеспечения защиты и безопасности ООНовцев на земле. Очевидно, что текущая военно-политическая эскалация неразрывно связана с общей нерегулированностью палестино-израильского конфликта и с беспрецедентной эскалацией в Газе. Готовы в тесном взаимодействии с партнерами и единомышленниками продолжать энергичные усилия с целью скорейшего прекращения огня в анклаве и запуска комплексного мирного процесса, который будет способствовать общей нормализации ситуации на Ближнем Востоке. Вызывает сожаление, что на протяжении всего процесса согласования проекта резолюции союзники Израиля в Совете Безопасности ООН вносили поправки, направленные на выхолащивание принципиальных положений резолюции о прекращении огня и суверенитете Ливана, в том числе в оккупированных Израилем районах. Это лишний раз высветило, кто спровоцировал нынешний виток эскалации на Ближнем Востоке, препятствуя принятию таких решений Совета Безопасности, которые позволили бы реально остановить кровопролитие, освободить, наконец, заложников и насильственно удерживаемых лиц, наладить безопасный гуманитарный доступ к нуждающимся палестинцам и создать задел для перезапуска мирного процесса на двухгосударственной основе, что гарантировало бы реализацию фундаментальных прав и чаяний палестинского народа. Благодарю вас.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for their statement. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as the representative of Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone reaffirms its commitment to promoting international peace and security and averting a full-scale war in Lebanon and a possible regional conflagration. In line with this end state, on 19th August 2024, Sierra Leone welcomed the request from the government of Lebanon and the recommendation of the United Nations Secretary General to extend the mandate of the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, for a further period of 1 year, quote, in full accordance with Resolution 1701, wording provisions without any amendments to its mandates, its concepts of operation, and its rules of engagement. Today, we have voted in favor of the Resolution 2749 to extend the mandate of UNIFIL from 31st August 2024 to 31st August 2025. We are of the view that the role of UNIFIL remains relevant, and the renewal of the mandate for 12 months is more important now than ever before, given the prevailing circumstances on the ground. Events since October 7, 2023 have only underscored the importance of the UNIFIL mission. UNIFIL continues to engage with authorities on both sides of the Blue Line in seeking to mitigate against miscalculation and avoid further escalation. The mission utilizes its liaison channels and coordination mechanisms and public statements to urge a return to a cessation of hostilities and to underscore the need to avoid impact on civilians and civilian infrastructure. Sierra Leone voted in favor of the resolution in line with our principal position, and we make the following observation: that the full implementation of all relevant Security Council resolutions, including Resolution 1701, is key for peace, security, and stability in Lebanon and the region. That there is need to address the violations of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of both Lebanon and Israel. Support for full respect for the Blue Line and to fully respect the cessation of hostilities in line with Resolution 1701. Safety and security of United Nations personnel and to respect the inviolability of United Nations premises. Freedom of movement of peacekeepers. Respect for international law and the protection of civilians and civilian objects. While we recognize that there are concerns regarding the mandate of UNIFIL, Sierra Leone is of the firm belief that protecting the mandate's integrity against a backdrop of escalating violence and uncertainty is a more important issue for the Security Council. We truly believe that this text is balanced and provides an appropriate response to the situation on the ground. We therefore thank France for their consistent efforts in preparing this balanced text to help bridge the gap among Council members. In conclusion, Sierra Leone remains dedicated to the pursuit of peace and security in Lebanon and in Israel. Our vote in favor of Resolution 2749 signifies our commitment to see UNIFIL continue successfully fulfill its mandate. I resume my function as President of the Council. I now give the floor to the representative of Lebanon.
السيد الرئيس، أتوجه بالشكر لكم ولكافة أعضاء المجلس على الجهود الجبارة التي قمتم بها من أجل إقرار التمديد لقوات اليونيفيل لمدة سنة. كما أرفع القبعة لحامل الكرم فرنسا التي استطاعت تمرير هذا الاستحقاق في هذا الظرف العصيب الذي تمر به منطقة الشرق الأوسط. وأثني على الموقف الإيجابي التي اتخذته دولة روسيا الاتحادية وجمهورية الصين الشعبية اللتين صوتتا لصالح القرار هذا العام. وكل الشكر للجمهورية الجزائرية الديمقراطية الشعبية العضو المنتخب الممثل للمجموعة العربية على وقفتها العروبية الأصيلة. السيد الرئيس، التصويت اليوم وبالإجماع له دليل دامغ على اهتمام المجتمع الدولي بلبنان، وهو رسالة واضحة من مجلسكم الكريم لصالح الاستقرار ووقف إطلاق النار، وهو بادرة أمل للبنانيين جميعا الذين يرفضون الحرب والعنف والدمار ويريدون إعطاء السلام فرصة، وهم يعولون على مجلس الأمن وعلى أصدقاء لبنان الكثر للمساعدة في الوصول إلى وقف الأعمال العدائية وتنفيذ القرار 1701 بكافة مندرجاته. وهنا لا بد أن أشدد على أهمية دور الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية المحوري والمبعوث الرئاسي الأمريكي السيد آموس هوكشتاين التوفيقي الساعي إلى إيجاد حل مستدام وتأمين الاستقرار على طول الحدود الدولية. وأي تفاهم أو ترتيب سوف يتم الموافقة عليه من كافة الأطراف المعنية في المستقبل سوف ينعكس على النفاذ. السيد الرئيس، لا يفوتنا هنا التنويه بالتضحيات التي تقوم بها قوات اليونيفيل قيادة وعديدا، وإذ نوجه التحية لهم نؤكد التزام لبنان بضمان أمنهم وسلامتهم وبتسهيل مهمتهم. فالشكر للدول 49 المساهمة في عديد هذه القوات. السيد الرئيس، لنعمل معا ليس فقط لوقف التصعيد بل لوقف إطلاق النار وحل النقاط الخلافية المتحفظ عليها على الحدود والانسحاب من كافة الأراضي اللبنانية المحتلة. ولنعمل معا لتطبيق القرارات الدولية ولتفعيل المبادرات والمساعي الحميدة من أجل الوصول إلى حلول مستدامة وسلام عادل وشامل. عندها فقط سيكون للبنان حدودا آمنة مما ينعكس استقرارا على القرى الحدودية وسكانها. وشكرا السيد الرئيس.
I thank the representative of Lebanon for their statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Israel.
Mr. President, distinguished council members, the renewal of UNIFIL's mandate this year by this council is not an ordinary renewal. It is taking place under extraordinary circumstances after the watershed event of October 7th. On October 8th last year, Hezbollah launched an unprovoked attack against Israel across the Blue Line in a flagrant breach of Resolution 1701 and in the service of the Ayatollah's regime in Tehran. Since then, over 8,000 rockets have been launched from Lebanon to Israel. Over 300 explosive UAVs made in Iran and over 1,500 anti-tank missiles have been launched against my country. Over 60,000 Israelis living in the north of Israel have had to leave their homes. 46 Israelis were killed, including 12 innocent children in Majd al-Shams, who were murdered by a rocket of Hezbollah. Over 300 Israelis have been wounded. Communities are targeted daily. 180 million square meters of forests and woods were burned. Hezbollah's attacks are part of a border conflict with the head of the snake in Tehran. The Ayatollahs attacks Israel from 7 fronts. They are the chief source of instability in our region, and the international community should show resolve in the face of this dangerous regime. Mr. President, the last few months proven what Israel has been saying for years to be correct, that Hezbollah has been breaching Resolution 1701 constantly, that it built a huge arsenal of rockets in South Lebanon, south of the Litani River, under the nose of UNIFIL. Most of these rockets were amassed in villages in South Lebanon, in homes, in mosques, near vital infrastructures, near UNIFIL posts, and in open areas under the woods and bushes, or in the area that Hezbollah described as private properties. That's an important term to remember, private properties, because they don't allow UNIFIL to enter those private properties. Just this week, when Hezbollah launched over 300 rockets, missiles, and explosive drones against Israel, Hezbollah's Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah admitted openly that most of these rockets were launched from South Lebanon, from within UNIFIL's area of operation. Mr. President, it's important to stress that 90% of the rockets and missiles fired at Israel this week by Hezbollah were launched from civilian areas in South Lebanon. Allow me to share with you two pictures. The first one is from the village of Balida in southern Lebanon. And what you can see in the picture, the red dots, are the places where the rockets were launched into Israel. It was 160 meters from a gas station. You can see the gas station here in blue. It was 220 meters from a school. That's what they are doing. They're placing the rockets in civilian communities. Or another picture that I want to share with you. It shows a UNIFIL facility in southern Lebanon near the village of Hania. And what you can see in the picture, the red dots are the rocket launchers. We have the ability to see once it's being launched into Israel. And this one is 150 meters from the UNIFIL base. And I ask, will it be reported by UNIFIL that the launchers were placed? And those who are interested, I will share with you dozens of pictures like that we have that show that they are placing the rockets next to UNIFIL bases. Mr. President, despite what I just described above, the text of the UNIFIL mandate renewal that the Council just adopted does not address the core problems surrounding the implementation of Resolution 1701. It seems that the Council is still trapped in the pre-7th of October era. The misconception of guarding artificial stability, turning a blind eye to Hezbollah's massive military buildup, and ignoring the constant erosion of Resolution 1701. Let me start with the basics. You know, I read the resolution carefully that you just adopted. The word Hezbollah doesn't appear in the text of the mandate renewal, not even once. So it's like there's like other forces there. Why not to name it? Who is there? You can name Israel, you can name Lebanon, and you must name Hezbollah. This is simply absurd fact represents the deep problem in the implementation of Resolution 1701. The fear to talk about the breach of the arms embargo, the fear for the protection of UNIFIL's force because of Hezbollah's constant intimidation, the desperate attempt to sustain artificial stability at all costs while ignoring Hezbollah's massive military buildup. This reality must change if we wish to create a long-term and sustainable stability in the Israeli-Lebanese border. Let's call a spade a spade. Moreover, it is unacceptable that this resolution puts both sides on an equal footing, calling for both to de-escalate. There should have been a clear distinction between Israel and Hezbollah. There should have been a strong condemnation of Hezbollah, who is the sole responsible for the current escalation. The burden of proof here is on the Lebanese government and Hezbollah, not on Israel. In addition, the text doesn't devote appropriate attention to the core problems of Resolution 1701. First, it does not address the breaches of the arms embargo on a daily basis by Iran and Hezbollah. Hezbollah is transferring weapons to Lebanon through land, sea, and air, including through the Beirut airport. Yet, there is not one word about it in this text. Second, the text fails to clearly note that there should be no arms south of the Litani other than those of the Lebanese army. Neither the Radwan force nor anything from Hezbollah's arsenal should be present south of the Litani River. Hezbollah must not be allowed to build military compounds using the excuse of private property to deny access to the Lebanese army and UNIFIL. Mr. President, we thank the TCC and UNIFIL for their contribution in trying to maintain peace and stability along the Blue Line. UNIFIL is working under complex circumstances, and in proximity to a terror organization. We are aware of that. However, UNIFIL should also draw serious conclusions from the current escalation, as it has exposed the failures of this force that Israel has alerted this Council about in the last few years. I'll give you a few examples. UNIFIL must report. We don't expect them to fight Hezbollah. We will defend ourselves. But they must report the realities on the ground and not hesitate to describe clearly the problematic situation. Israel revealed many proofs over the last 2 years that Hezbollah and the Radwan force are building military compounds along the blue line under the cover of the so-called green NGO. They name it Green Without Borders. It sounds so nice, like the care for the environment, but it's not. It's a camouflage. You know, Green Without Borders, that's the name of the compound of Hezbollah next to our border. And it was not reported by UNIFIL. They have used it to deny UNIFIL forces access to this location. Here's another example. You all remember what happened at the Druze village at Majd al-Shams. UNIFIL and DPO would not say where the missile came from, despite the fact that UNIFIL has the means to establish where this missile was shot from. This must change. UNIFIL's deployment in the area is important, but it should be much more robust. There should not be private property which UNIFIL cannot access. Distinguished colleagues, I say to the State of Lebanon and to our colleagues who represent the Lebanese government, it is your responsibility to ensure that there are no weapons in South Lebanon, other than those of the LAF. Lebanon must deploy significantly greater forces of the LAF to South Lebanon. Lebanon needs to decide if it wants to be a hostage in the hands of Hezbollah and Iran. It must decide if it wants to be a functioning state which provides security to its citizens and its neighbors, or become a failed state controlled by Iran. We know that many people in Lebanon are hostages in the hands of Hezbollah and oppose this war. We also know that many Lebanese chose to leave this summer out of fear of escalation because of Hezbollah's actions. Lebanon must make this choice and cannot hide behind the back of UNIFIL. Mr. President, Israel is determined to return its civilians to their homes in the north and have a stable border with Lebanon. We do prefer the diplomatic solution, and we thank all those who worked tirelessly to bring about such a solution, especially the United States. But let me be clear, time is running out. Israel will not tolerate such a reality for much longer. If diplomacy fails, we will use all the necessary means to restore calm and stability to the north of Israel. As we have shown recently, we have the capabilities and we will not hesitate to use them if diplomacy doesn't work. We demand immediate change. A unified international community against the Ayatollah's regime will be an important deterrent to its dangerous behavior. The first step should be the Council designating the IRGC and Hezbollah as terrorist organizations. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Israel for their statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.